Okay, hi everyone. We're back. Yay! So I had minor technical difficulties last week as my phone decided to die. It went bye-bye on Sunday. Went up to the phone store. They changed out the SIM card, still wouldn't work. And then we had to wait 5 days for a warranty phone. And the really fun part of that is warranty phone gets here and it doesn't work with the new SIM card. Put my husband's in, it works. So it was a SIM card issue, not a phone issue, and took me 5 days to figure it out. But that's the blessing and the curse of technology, isn't it? So I had a really quiet week last week. I don't know about you, but we're here for coaching in the carpool. I'm sitting in the carpool up at my children's school because this is what I do, right? I went into business so that I had more freedom. I went into business so that I could make a good income, work on my own terms, and do things like this, like go pick up my kids from Carpool. So that's why you're here. That's why I'm here, is to give you a little bit of that. But we're talking about really, if you've been catching any of the Carpool, coaching from the Carpool series, we've been going over like these 10 building blocks to building a successful business. And the last one that we're talking about is team. And team is so important. And team is so interestingly a divider, a divisive, emotion charged kind of topic for a lot of business owners. Let's talk a little bit about team. So most business owners struggle with hiring somebody to help them. All right. They struggle with, can I afford to keep them? You know, how much am I going to have to pay? Is that too much? Is that too little? Taxes. It's so funny to me. Business owners don't want to pay taxes. And I'm like, taxes, death, you know, it's kind of one of those things, guaranteed. What else? You know, there's all these bad hiring past. So maybe you've hired somebody in the past and it didn't work out well. And that kind of clouds your judgment. There's just so much angst that tends to go into hiring team before almost anything. So here's one big clue. You know, sometimes I'll talk to you about, are you a business owner? Or are you an entrepreneur? Well, a business owner is always going to be worried about hiring, always going to be worried about investing, always going to be worried about that level of kind of bringing somebody else on. An entrepreneur, though, sees the value of team and understands how to bring them in. So case in point, if you can replace yourself in your business, you've got a business that can be sold, right? That's a huge asset. If you've got team underneath you, you can take vacation. That's a huge asset, right? Now there's ways to do this without having huge teams, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So I think most business owners wait way too long to hire somebody into their business. Okay, and you need to understand that there's multiple levels of team or hiring people in, and I think a lot of times we think of having to support a salary. If you're not at the point in time in your business where you feel like you can support somebody else's salary on top of your own, you should be paying yourself first. There's a couple things you can do. So let me give you this concept. It's called abbreviated M as in Mary, T as in Tom, C as in Carpool. Okay, so it's called micro temporary costs. All right, and that is using somebody else's expertise, but just paying for what you need, right? Just using it for what you need. This is so great if you're in a startup phase, right? Or if you have what I would say essential but non-reoccurring type of work, meaning you can just farm it out to somebody that has the skills. What might this be? Well, for instance, I was working with a client and we're kind of developing that sales call list, you know, the ideal people that we want to target for his product. And he has a technological education solution product. And we were dealing with schools. So like we want to know every school that has a computer technology, electrical engineering kind of trade type of a program. And not only do we want to know the school, we want to know, you know, who the professor is, what their email is, and what their phone number is, who's the department chair, who's the curriculum chair, all these people that might be involved in the purchase decision. that can be a lot of work, right? And my client, I could see when we were talking about this, the kind of glazed over view. Here's the deal. You don't have to do the work. You just have to make sure it gets done. And one way to do that is by doing something like Upwork. Used to be Elance, Fiverr. I don't know if you probably could get this done on Fiverr. I would just probably go to Upwork, where you can just basically list out all the requirements that you need, right, for this spreadsheet that you want to have. And let's say you want 50 schools in there. Do you know how much you're going to pay for that? I mean, seriously, how much are you going to pay for that? And I when I've done these kinds of researching type projects, right, I generally use somebody in the States because, I don't know, I guess that's my proof in the pudding is that I use somebody that's stateside, and I don't want to always have to worry about language barriers there. But I've paid $50. $50. And that's not me saying, hey, this is all I'm going to pay. That's me going, okay, what are you going to charge me? And I'll get back $50 of quality work. That's a micro temporary cost where I'm just paying somebody with expertise for what I need them for, and then I'm done. Okay, you can think of a bazillion ways to do that. You could have an intern. That's a short-term cost, right? They may be with you 3 to 6 months. You could have, trying to think of some other just short-term micro-temporary costs. When you have your CPA do your taxes, that's a short-term micro-temporary cost, right? You're only having to pay for the services. So if that's where you're at and you're struggling with all the time and, somebody just pulled up next to me, so I was like, oh, who are you? all the effort that, some of these really tedious things might do, then use a micro-temporary cost. Your second option is to really use more of a subcontractor, maybe somebody you're going to have a longer term relationship with. This might be a VA. This could be a part-time assistant. This could be a marketing person, a business coach. If you think about it, these are all you're going to have a longer term engagement with them, but you're still not paying their salary and overhead and everything that goes along with it. You're expecting them to come to the table with a lot of things. I would say this is kind of like your second step. And sometimes this is the category in this business, the second business I'm in a lot, because I love working with people that are really good at what they do, that I don't have to tell them how to do it, and I just tell them what I need done and what success looks like. And that way I get back what I want, and we work together, and it's a partnership, and it's all good. So, that's kind of that second level where you have more of a longer term engagement, but you're maybe having somebody for, I don't know, 10 hours a month, it really doesn't have to be very big. Then you start to get into really having employees, what I consider. And that if you have a personal assistant that comes to your office, anybody that would come into your office or report to you, or you would set a time schedule for, also a definition of whether somebody's in contract or not. All these people start to be longer term commitments. And you can use these people, all three segments of building team to help grow your business. People are a major point of leverage. If you're not using people in your business, then you're not getting as far ahead as you could in the same amount of time, all right? Because there's still only 24 hours in the day. There's only so much that you can do. And so you really have to figure out these ways to maximize and get a lot of things going. Now, I guess this is, in my brain, with the image that just kind of flipped in, is of a Gantt chart. I don't know if you're a project person. One of my early careers in advertising, I was client management, so I managed projects, and I had MS Project and all this nice fun stuff. So here's the concept. If you yourself and I, are working on one task, you can only work on one task. So if you think about it, is you get this stair step, like I have to complete this before I can complete this, before I can complete that, before I can complete that. Okay, that's a kind of waterfall type of thing. But you can only really have like maybe one good action, one good forward motion on something. When you bring in these other people and you think about it just long enough to plan things out, and maybe this is my project manager brain, but when you think about this, you can actually start to get multiple things. So if you did 3 non-dependent, like they don't they're not dependent upon each other type of things, but maybe they have to come together at the end. You get 3 of those going along at one time. You've just cut the work time, the development time on something by 1/3 or 2/3 actually. You're doing the same amount of work in 2/3 of the time. That's huge. That's massive, right? That's the value of people. So think about this when you're looking at growing your business, about when's the right time to bring in people. I will tell you, especially for my entrepreneurs that are just getting into being comfortable hiring salaried individuals and long-term commitment employees, you're never ready. It's kind of like waiting to have kids. You'll never be ready if that's what you're waiting for. There is some tools that you can put into place to check and make sure that financially you're not killing yourself by making this type of an investment. And so I hope you have a cash flow report. If you don't know what that is, let me know. I'm happy to send something to you on that. So just use people to your advantage to grow your business, to get stuff done faster so that you actually can focus on the things that you want to do. The last thing I'll leave you with is this concept of opportunity cost. We're working on products and packaging and pricing in my mastermind for next month. That's going to be our class, and my masterminders are working on their homework and looking at like how much do they cost the business, because you're an expense. You know, if you don't see yourself as an expense in your business, we need to work on that. You need to pay yourself first. If you pay yourself first, you're an expense in your business. Got it? But your time has a value. And right now my masterminders are working through some quickie worksheets that will show them what their value is to the client. Most people are very shocked to see that their value is anywhere between $100 to $250 in the business an hour. So if you think of this, if you have the ability to earn $100, let's just use that because it's easy math, right? And I would want you to be making more than $100 an hour, but $100 an hour is what you're worth to your business. You can choose it to spend that time making that $100, and that's usually marketing or sales or selling in the business, or adding value enough to that your customer wants to buy again, that you're increasing your average sale, all these things, all right? That impacts dollars and brings in dollars. Or you can choose to spend $100 filing. And that's what by you doing that task is really costing you. So sometimes I hope that helps to help, especially if you're just getting into team management and hiring. Excuse me, I need a sip of my water real quick. If you're just getting into that, hopefully that's a good little indicator about, do I do it? Do I hire out? From a financial standpoint. The other part that I try to help people with understanding, and this gets into that delegation concept, is really to understand if you should delegate it, is if it's a recurring task, it's definitely delegated out. Okay, if it's recurring, you can create a process, and I talked about that I think on our last coaching from the Carpool. You can create a process for it. You can hire somebody else can do it. Okay, but sometimes you get things where your knowledge is so innate in it, you've got to do it for yourself, and that could be. But let me give you. I've always been a writer, so I've always done a lot of writing. Well, writing's a really personal type of a thing. So I've actually, I'm not doing as much writing as I have before, but I hired, a colleague, Jim McCann, who's out there, to write for me. Now, I chose somebody that had a very similar voice to me so that I didn't have to work on that element, and somebody that understood business writing enough so I didn't have to work on that element. Now, I still had to be a participant, right? I still had to help come up with ideas. I still had to read the articles and edit for, I would never say that, say this instead, or, I really want to make sure this point is made, so let me elaborate on this. I was still involved in the process, but I wasn't doing, 90% of the work of it. So there's those things where it's a little bit more collaborative, and then there's sometimes things you just have to do. I think the number one thing that people try to delegate out way too early is sales. You might not enjoy it, but it's definitely necessary. And for so many small businesses, nobody sells you like you. And so until you've got that like spot down, I wouldn't give that away per se, but really understand, how necessary it is for you to be doing the task according to what it might cost you to have somebody do it. It might cost you if you're not earning money. And then just it's relative, like, I don't know, do you really need to be doing that? And then ask yourself that. I ask my clients all the time, do you really need to be doing that? It's a good little gut check kind of point. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about is mini-me's. And if you think of Minions and golly gravy, the movie name went out of my head, but you're with me on this. So if you think about the Minions, if you think about mini-me's, this is this concept of really reproducing you. Now, we talked about processes, we talked about systems last time, and you can always teach a process and a system, but you can't always teach a attitude. So make sure that you're hiring the right attitudes for these things. I love job descriptions and employment ads that are really speaking to attitude or to skill. I was at a Success in Business with the Plano Chamber last week, and we had a gentleman, Gregory Tall, come in and talk about hiring and retaining staff. And some of the ads that he showed were so spot on, so fabulous, that they qualified the person who would be reading the ad before they even applied for the job. One of them was a Microsoft ad. So cool. Microsoft ad where it had an equation and all these dots. Well, when you solved the equation, it was actually the phone number to be able to apply for the job. That's smart. That's really smart, because they're looking for problem solvers. So the right person for that job would go, ooh, it's a puzzle. Let me do this puzzle. And if they had the skills, they would figure it out. So, there's another one that he showed that was for like a bar here in Dallas. And it was basically drunk speak. And so it's like, spelt out phonetically or spelt out how a drunk might say something. And it's like, if you can understand this and it doesn't bother you, then come talk to us. What a great ad. Okay. So make sure that when you're, and I can't go too deep in this today, guys, but make sure when you're getting to the point of hiring somebody full-time, an employee type status, even if you're in that subcontractor 1099 area, make sure that you're really clear, that you're talking about the attitude that you want, that if you have a little playfulness in there and you want somebody playful, that you put it into actually finding these people. Like I said, I was, I guess, coached in the mantra of you can teach skill, but you can't teach attitude. And I really think that's truly important when you're hiring people and really using team to develop. So a little skippy today, a little all over the place when it comes to team, but it's really one of those truly big topics that are out there. So I'll leave you with two parting thoughts. I'm looking for some help in the team. So I'm looking for an intern, either an entrepreneurial intern or marketing intern. I can make this work for both people who wants to work on some really, really cool projects that I'm working on across Dallas with some different organizations. So need some help there. But if you're looking for a little bit more camaraderie, if you're looking for, be around like-minded people that are trying to do what you're doing, then be sure to check out the Six Figure Success Club Dallas. We're on Meetup. Our next meetup is next Tuesday night at Asian Mint on Forest and 75. And we're going to be talking about the role of health in your business and how it helps you keep your wealth and your business, by the way. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Leslie Hassler with Your Biz Rules Business Coaching, and we're coaching from the Carpool. Talk to you soon.